Good morning everybody and welcome back. This is my third video, and in this video I'm going to talk about the kind of tools that you'll use on a regular basis when working with polymer clay. Everybody has their preferences, so all I can do is kind of show you what I've got and what I've found useful, and then you guys can kind of decide for yourself and experiment and see what works best for you. So I have a selection of tools that were given to me as a gift, very thoughtful gift, and here they are. There's a few more as well. There's like a stippling tool as well, which is always really handy. This is probably my favourite, not because it's sharp and stabby, but it's a needle tool and it's really handy for making holes and picking up tiny little pieces and things. It's almost like a little pen, so it's kind of good. And then we've got, moving on, I've got a selection of board tools. The board tools that I originally bought were quite chunky and really, I mean, they're useful but not really fit for purpose. And these were actually icing, cake craft ones, for doing sugar paste and things like that. So obviously they are useful, but I needed some smaller ones. So I did a bit of research and found actually that nail art tools are so good. They're like a fiver and you get a little roll with them as well, so you get a package and everything, and as you can see they're really tiny and they range from different sizes, and they also came with some brushes as well, which is also really useful, so I bought some more, as you do, which are here. I've got a fan brush there, and then there's one for slightly finer stuff. Got loads of others. There's another one, but that's what I use a lot. These are really good for, you can smooth out the crevices and cracks and things in clay. You can add varnish when your piece is baked, and you can also, before your piece is baked, you can add powder in order to shade, or add shimmer effects and so forth. I found that I don't really get on with plastic tools like these. I don't find them, I like a bit of weight, I don't really find them very sturdy, and also this set has actually a seam going all the way along, and so it creates a little seam in any of the work, so really not that great, but they were cheap, so yeah. Also I've got a couple of craft knives. That one, I can't remember the name of it now, but it turns, so when you're doing fine turns, it turns with you kind of thing, and this is my favourite one there. This is just a standard X-Acto knife, takes all kinds of blade sizes. I'm not sure what blade size this is, I'm sure someone will be able to tell me, but it's a Swan Morton anyway, and when you use these, please make sure that you handle them carefully and don't just dispose of them in your normal waste. You will need to find a sharps box or keep a sharps box of your own, because it technically is medical waste, so it needs to go in one of those. I'm not sure if you have to have I think you have to have a prescription or get one from your doctor or something like that, so certainly check and then come back to me and I can update that info. Another thing that I keep is one of these, or several of these actually. I've got different sizes. They were £1 from the pound shop, and they're really handy for cutting your pieces and also for picking pieces up, especially if they're stuck to the board as well. You just slide that under, really handy. I've got two things. One of them I haven't brought up, but it's a pasta roller, and that is really handy for conditioning your clay, and also when you want to roll it out flat and you want it to be even, obviously. And know that there's a technique that I will teach you in another video called the Skinner blend, where you go from one colour to another in a smooth gradient. And I didn't actually bring an example up, but I do have some somewhere that I've already done and kept and wrapped up. But anyway, the next thing as well, I've got an acrylic roller. That's the sleeve for it. Yeah, I've dropped it. Nice weight, really nice. And again, you just use it for flattening out your clay. Obviously, you can get them with a pattern in as well, so that you can roll it out and you get this nice pattern across your work. And I think they use these in Sugarcraft as well. Actually, I think you can get them from cake craft shops and so forth as well. And then I've got a small selection of cutters and silicone moulds as well. I try and handcraft and everything when I can, but sometimes it is easier and quicker to turn out a few elements from a mould, because you can always adapt them as well once you've done that. So I've got my stainless steel drop cutter there, petal cutter, whatever you want to call it. So I would advise to get some petal leaf cutters, maybe some circle cutters as well, definitely actually, and stars, hearts, things like that. You know, geometric shapes are always handy because they're easier. I mean, fair enough, you can cut them, that's fine, but when it comes to that kind of thing, it is more accurate to use a cutter, and especially if you're making little cakes like I do and stuff like that, then a circle cutter is like the thing to have. Silicone moulds, you can put them in the oven. They're perfectly safe to bake your pieces inside if you want to. I tend not to. I tend to turn mine out while they're still raw, although if you're not careful they can catch. Talcum powder will help with this, but if it is a really intricate mould, like I've got a cameo mould, so it's really ornate, and that just will not come out without breaking it. So sometimes you do have to just suck it up and bake inside. But if you put a little bit of talcum powder into the mould, put a little bit in, and you can use a brush or your finger or whatever and spread it all out. This is where your fan brushes come in useful, like that, and then just blow on it and the excess will go you know, in the bin, whatever, but that will stop things sticking into it anyway. And you can also use talcum powder on your board or your hands and things like that to stop the clay from sticking. I didn't bring my board up either, but I actually just use a basic glass worktop saver, you know, like a glass chopping board covered in I cover it with baking paper, then I tape it down as well so it doesn't move around, and that way you can just whip it off and change it whenever you want, because clay can bleed into another colour as well, so just make sure you keep your hands and your board nice and clean when you work, and yeah, obviously just be careful. White clay is really hard to keep white as well, so that's the main one to watch for. Another thing that I use as well to colour the clay is, firstly I started off with these, then I just go in mica powder, which I'll show you in a minute. So little chalks, and they come in different colours obviously, and you can just shave them with your X-Acto knife, and then you'll end up with powder that you can actually paint and brush onto the clay. Then I've got also mica powder. This is just one colour. It's from the Happy Olive from eBay. Definitely check it out because they've got loads and their service is really quick and it's so shimmery. You can't really tell while it's in the packet, but yeah, it shines like beautifully, especially if you put a colour, rich colour like this on black. The effect is really, really, really stunning, and it's also cosmetic grade, so it's safe to use against your skin, which is always a plus when you're working with jewellery, and you know, keeping your hands from nasty chemicals and things like that. You can see I've got an example here of a rose. Apologies now for the fingerprints, it was just a kind of experiment. That's got mica powder on it. It's got a bit of a shimmer. This hasn't, by comparison. I've just shaded some of the rose petals with some pastel. So yeah, this one actually is, I spoke about it in one of my previous videos. It's made out of souffle, and you can probably see that there are a few bits that have chipped off, which is a real pity. So yeah, there's that. Another couple of things that I just keep handy, I tend to keep some baby wipes and some cotton buds handy, and also some nail varnish remover, because then you can actually use that to smooth out any fingerprints that you've left on your clay or any surfaces and things like that. It just takes off the top layer, so that's a really good thing to have. I also keep some cocktail sticks around for, you know, creating small holes, or if you wanted to do some work on something, you can actually put it on the end of a stick and then put your detail on all around and turn it, and it's quite flexible that way. Armature wire. It's always good to have some wire and some foil, because you can actually create a kind of, if you're making something like an animal or a skeleton, an animal or a person, you can create a skeleton out of the armature wire, and then pad it out with, you know, foil. You know, keep adding that, and then you can pop your clay on and start working with it and work in layers. So it's really handy to have those things. Obviously they're safe to put in the oven as well. And then when your piece is beautifully finished and all baked and everything like that, then you want to glaze it a lot of the time to seal it and everything. It just keeps it better, especially if you're working with jewellery and stuff. You might want to just you know, make sure that your skin is protected. And this is low solvent. I actually use polyurethane more than this. Again, low solvent. It's water soluble when it's wet, so you can wipe it off, but it's also completely waterproof when it's dry. So it's absolutely fantastic. And it's actually meant for outdoor use, and you can buy it from your hardware store. I think it cost about a tenner for a massive tin, and it's lasted me ages. I'm still not even halfway through it, so it's really good to have. But this as well, or equally, this is Sculpey Gloss Glaze as well. I actually ended up getting 3 for the price of 2 on something, and this was the third thing. So yeah. In terms of the tools that I use for just clay work, that's about it. And I also have some basic jewellery items, working items, and wire cutters handy most times as well for your armature and just for opening up jump rings and clasps and things. I didn't bring any, but there's some on the back of this you can see. You might want to get, if you're doing jewellery stuff, you might want to get eye pins, which is that. And then this one is a head pin with a little tiny silver ball on the bottom as well. That I've done that. I've closed that up there, but it's just like a pin with a flat bit or a round bit on the bottom. So you want some of those, and obviously chains and earring fixtures or whatever it is, and all important jump rings as well. And I believe that's it. If you have any questions, or if you think I've missed anything, or I've gone too fast, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer any questions that anyone has. And just stay tuned, give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe, that'd be really nice. And yeah, I promise not to bore you too much. Hopefully I'll see you next time. In the meantime, you know, just keep asking questions, and I will make more videos soon. Thank you very much for watching and bearing with me, and I will see you next time.